Junk Food Dinner 352. This week we pay tribute to the king of the monsters, Godzilla. Godzilla returns to destroy Japan, and another monster in Godzilla Raids Again. Time-traveling robots spark another Godzilla attack in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. And last, it's kaiju versus mutants versus space aliens in Godzilla Final Wars.
Take that, you dinosaur!
Welcome back to Junk Food Dinner. The final movie on our Godzilla theme show is Godzilla Final Wars from 2004. Wow, we're really jumping forward through time with these Godzilla movies. I had seen part of this movie. I hadn't seen all this movie, but my friend Jay Tan, a cool guy who used to live here in LA, just moved up to Seattle, was a huge Godzilla fan, gave me a few Godzilla movies on VCD when he moved up to Seattle, which was very nice of him. But yeah, he had this movie on DVD I think it was DVD. And I watched probably about the first half of it a long ass time ago, well before the part where baby Godzilla shows up. So, man, I didn't know how much cool stuff was in this movie, but I knew that there was enough intrigue in here, and it seemed like kind of the kitchen sink Godzilla movie. And I figured, why not pick this? We'll see all the kaiju at once, if we can. But the plot of this movie is set in the future. Wikipedia says the year 2030X, so sometime in the 2030s. Environmental disasters cause the appearance of giant monsters and superhumans dubbed mutants, who get recruited into the Earth Defense Force, the EDF, to battle monsters. The movie kicks off with a bunch of action, first with a short battle in Antarctica between Godzilla and this weird Star Trek-ish drilling ship thing called the Gotengo, which is in a bunch of Toho kaiju movies, I guess.
Yeah, it's also a great Ted Nugent song.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it could be. He's a great American, a great patriot. That Ted Nugent. We're all rooting for him this year. Anyways, Godzilla gets frozen in the ice, so he's out of the picture for a bit. But we do get a cool credit sequence that flashes through all the years of Godzilla. It's kind of like showing a bunch of greatest hits of like Godzilla clips, kind of like was it Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, where they did that kind of career retrospective of all the Freddy stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's cool to see like the progression of the monster through all the years. And then, after that, we get the monster-headed Don Frye from UFC and Pride and I think WWF fame as well.
He's awesome in this.
He's fun. He does have that monster kaiju-sized head that I think is totally appropriate for this. But he's fun. He's intense. He's got that kind of budget Tom Selleck or Tom Skerritt type of thing going on. And he's facing off in this movie at the beginning against Manda, which is like an underwater dragon kaiju. So he's, I guess, the captain of this Gotengo ship for the Earth Defense Force, and he's fighting this underwater dragon kaiju and manages to vanquish it. I think he gets in trouble with his boss for some reason or something, and then we get this very Matrix-esque fight scene with like some Chemical Brothers type techno music under it between two members of the EDF. So like right at the beginning, you've already got a Godzilla fight. You got this cool like highlight reel. You got this Don Frye versus an underwater dragon fight, and then you got like this Matrix style fist fight going on. Ton of action to start it off, and then we get kind of introduced to these characters. One of these characters is this dude Shinichi Ozaki, who's kind of a jerk. He's with the EDF, and he has this meet cute with Dr. Miyuki Otanashi, where he kind of rags on her for looking too much like a supermodel to be a scientist, and he's giving her shit about that. And she's been sent in to the EDF to study this monster corpse that they've dug up, and in the process ends up being transported together with the EDF guys to Infant Island, which is the island that we last saw in the Mothra movie, way back when, in the late 50s or early 60s or whenever. These little miniature ladies, these like dwarf ladies that we last saw in that Mothra movie show up. Do you know what the name of those are, Kevin? You probably know.
No, not offhand. I just call them the Mothra twins.
The Mothra twins. Well, they show up and, they kind of warn these people that, hey, war is coming. There's going to be more monsters coming. By the way, that corpse that you dug up, that's Gigon. Look out for it. As all this crazy shit's going to happen. And they're right. Like almost immediately afterwards, like a bunch of monsters show up and start destroying cities all around the world, including in the US of A, in which we get in that US scene, we get the rare appearance of 2 black dudes in a Godzilla movie. It's kind of unfortunate that one of them is a drunk on his ass curbside wino, and the other is like a fur and fedora clad pimp being held by a white cop at gunpoint. But, hey, inclusion
they're both
is
holding
a
each
start.
other. Yeah, they're both holding each other at gunpoint.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's still probably not the kind of representation the community was looking for. But, we got them in there. They respect the blacks of this country in Japan.
To be fair, I figured that when Japanese people think of America, they just think of people pointing guns at one another. And rightfully so.
Yeah, you know what? They got a point. And time proved them correct, I think. So we get one of those. We also get like a bunch of just kind of chaos around the world scenes. We get one of those George Romero style talking head argument TV scenes where it's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it this way. No, we're going to do it that way. And that stuff is all pretty fun until a bunch of aliens show up. These aliens called the what is this? It's not Xylians, right? It's the Exilians, right? Exilians, yeah. I think they call themselves.
Yeah.
Because they come from a planet who we could not pronounce the name of, which seems like a real cop-out. Just come up with a name, you guys. You guys really, you run out of ideas over there?
They came from planet Neo, judging by the way they dressed.
Yeah. Well, they came to basically deliver a peace treaty and say, hey, we're going to help you guys defeat these monsters. And we brought Baby Godzilla, or I'm not even sure how Baby Godzilla got there, but he's there, and everybody seems to be happy about it.
Yeah, and the Zillions are the Exilians. They're another, throwback to old. They were in the Invasion of the Astro Monster Godzilla movie, so they've showed up in the 60s and 70s Godzilla movies as well.
But this kind of seems like it takes place maybe in a universe or a version of the universe where they didn't, right? Because I don't think people were too familiar with them. But some people do develop skepticism. Some people are like, hey, there's something weird's going on with these Exilians. And of course, everybody knows that Godzilla is going to come back eventually. So that's kind of the direction that things go in. And yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, the Exilians are up to no good and they're behind all of this. And,
yeah,
we're going to work together to vanquish the foes.
If aliens are showing up in a Godzilla movie, they're never there for whatever their original stated purpose is. They always have an ulterior motive. Yeah.
I can definitely see that based on these few movies alone. Yeah, for sure. Godzilla, the physical, practical effect of Godzilla in this, I think is pretty good. Although, I don't know, I felt like he looked a little bit more like a plastic toy in this than he does in earlier ones. And maybe I like that kind of softer, more rubbery feel to the Godzilla costume. I think that might be just kind of what I'm used to, what's in my brain. Because here, I don't know, the surfaces looked a little bit solid and hard. And maybe that's how a real Godzilla would be in real life. I don't know. I've never met one, but I don't know. That kind of stuck out to me. The fact that they have like the CG effects for like the laser breath and stuff kind of turned me off a little bit. And, like I said, he doesn't have those red animal gums in his mouth in this one. So I think that's also kind of a step down. But I do like the apocalyptic vibe in the environments during the fights. Like, I feel like the fight scenes in this are a little bit more dark and gloomy than usual. Like he's fighting in Dark City or something. Just a lot of cool atmosphere. And there's tons of action in this movie. There's 14 total kaiju on screen and another 8 kaiju that we see via stock footage. So you get your fill of giant monsters in this, including King Caesar, like the best fucking kaiju of all time. He's that weird furry headed dog kaiju from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla,
Yep.
and he's adorable. Like, I would love to live in a world where King Caesar was a real creature. I wouldn't even be frightened. Like that, let him destroy a city once in a while. I think it's worth it for that guy. And with all these monsters comes what I'm guessing is a bigger budget, maybe than they were used to. This feels like a pretty big budget movie. Feels pretty slick. Has kind of a modern sci-fi feeling to the non-battling scenes. A level of slickness here that I think is not always present in the new Godzilla movies. Some pretty impressive car crashes with like real vehicles, not like toy cars. Exploding in like real environments. With like huge black clouds of smoke, like some pretty impressive non-CG fire effects in this, which I really like to see.
Yeah, this was the biggest budget Japanese Godzilla movie ever.
That makes sense. Yeah. And they really, like I said, it is the kitchen sink. They really throw everything in. They even have, we were talking on off air about, they have that Zilla, the American version of Godzilla, which is CG. It's entirely CG. So he does kind of stand out amongst all these other mostly practical monsters. But I guess kind of neat for fans that they included the least popular Godzilla in this as well.
Right. And he gets destroyed immediately. So it was like a nice little dig at him as well.
Yeah. And it seems like this director had like a lot of thoughts about like how he wanted to present Godzilla. And I'm sure, probably a lot of Japanese fans hated that American Godzilla. But more than that, it seems like this director had a lot of strong feelings, even about the Japanese Godzilla movies and what he did and didn't want to do. And, like I was reading on the Wikipedia page, it said that he really wanted to bring a social message back to the Godzilla movies. And he felt like maybe the focus had been on too much action for decades. And he preferred the 1970s Godzilla movies, which had more of a social message. So, of course, the way to do that is to prominently feature the Sum 41 classic, We're All to Blame, during the final fight. It's a real Who Are the Real Monsters type of ballad. So I think that was smart. And of course, the other way to do that is to have an old grandpa in a bearskin shooting a rifle at baby Godzilla. We all know what that's an allegory for, right? That's pretty clear-cut social commentary. Honestly, I don't know what the fuck this Ryuhei Kitamura was talking about in these interviews. Like he tries to claim that this is going to be like a socially relevant Godzilla movie. But to me, this seems like just the most whacked out, like, balls out, all action, no sense type of movie. Which is fine with me. I like that. I think it's fun. Even when this movie is kind of all over the place and over ambitious, I think it's fun. I'm sure that there were some Godzilla super fans that were kind of pissed that this movie for a while feels like it's more like an X-Men movie or like a Star Wars movie. Like there's like a Death Star run sequence in this. Doesn't always feel strictly like a Godzilla movie to me. And especially towards the end, when the last half hour of this movie seems to be just kind of all human bullshit. I get if people don't love this, but I thought it was fun. What about you guys? What did you think of Godzilla Final Wars?
I like these wars. Kinda, mostly. I like that this movie throws everything. Like we kind of said with the last movie, like I like that this movie just has all this shit. And then when I was looking at the IMDb, sort of like how Kevin was saying, like even outside of like obviously like a lot of the Godzilla monsters return and, Mothra shows up, which is kind of like a big crossover. Like even outside of that, like there's like these aliens who are in like their own movies and like all these other references to like other movies that are non-Godzilla. So like this crosses over like so much shit. And I think that's super cool. I wish I would have watched all of the Godzillas before watching this one. That way I can like understand the references. But it's still cool.
It does feel like that at times. Like you're watching like a Royal Rumble or something with all these like awesome wrestlers, but you only know like a handful of the wrestlers.
Yeah. It feels like if, you saw like Cabin in the Woods, but like you had only seen like The Exorcist, like that was like the only horror movie you had ever seen. Like, so like you kind of get the gist, but like all the fun little details are kind of lost. So that's kind of how I felt during this. Like I was like, oh, this would be so much cooler if I had seen 30 more Godzilla movies first. But it's still pretty fun. Like, I get the general kind of like energy and stuff that they're going for. Like, they want me to feel like every time some new character pops up that I would be like, yes, fuck yes. You know, like you said, like with the Royal Rumble, like every 2 minutes you go, fuck yes. It's him. That's the guy. Yes. And then 2 minutes later, you're like, yes, that's fucking guy too. All right. It's like, that's all fun. Like, I like that energy. I like, this little baby Godzilla. I think he's cute. He doesn't really get like a lot of screen time. So I saw on Letterboxd some people are mad that he's even in it, but I mean, I don't know. He's cute. He's there for like 2 seconds. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, for real, if you don't love Baby Godzilla, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah, you hear that? So yeah, during the prologue, they're talking about how like all these mutants exist and how they're part of an organization called M Organization. And I thought they were going to have a cool name, but no, they're called M Organization. So that's what they are.
Or just Morganization for short.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that there are mutant people. Is this the first time that there are mutant people in the franchise?
Good question. I mean, I know there's definitely been aliens, but yeah, I think this might be the first time they dabbled in mutants. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, it stands to reason. I mean, if all these dinosaurs are getting mutated, why not people? So I think that's kind of cool. I like that they bring that into it. The people themselves are kind of boring. I think Don Frye is cool just because I like know about him. I like know who he is. And he plays like kind of a cool, tough character and stuff. And when he gets rescued, like the guy rescues him and then like he takes him back to like, you know, their base of operations to the scientist lady and the journalist lady. And like they're two foxy ladies and Don Frye is like, nice.
Yeah. So, he's very over the top in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the fact that he thinks he got rescued to go on a double date with two hot chicks. And yeah, he's super over the top. He's super cool. He plays like a cool, tough guy. Also, at the end, when all our heroes are together and then Godzilla's about to attack them when all the monsters are dead, he pulls out a sword. Like, he's going to fight Godzilla with a fucking sword. Like, how cool is that? That's pretty tough. I freaked out when the little Mothra twins popped up because I really liked them when we did Mothra. And that was, you know, a fun touch. American Godzilla popping up. It's a funny sort of insult jab that he's CG. So I thought that was fun. A lot of these other monsters are cool. Like, the first time that all the bad guy monsters pop up is probably like the best part. Like, they're just running amok and destroying like 5 or 6 cities. And I think that's probably my favorite part. And then, like, I don't know, every time I was getting into the monsters, like, they just kind of popped up and all these Matrix aliens kept showing up and kind of doing boring shit. So, while I like the idea of Matrix aliens and shit like that and mutants, like, there's just too much of it. I think if this movie was like half an hour shorter, 20 minutes shorter, and you focused on cutting those guys, it would make this movie a lot better.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, on the whole, it's cool. I think it's all right. I will probably like this a lot more in like 5 years after we've done 5 more Godzilla theme shows.
This is a movie that I saw shortly after. This one we didn't have to wait so long to get in the United States. It didn't get a theatrical release here, but it did get released on DVD just a year after it came out in Japan in 2005. And this was a time, I've referenced it before, but there was a great video store up in Dayton called Precinct 13 Video. And I was watching a lot of Japanese cinema via that video store. Stuff like, you know, the Cutie Honey movie that we did on the show, and like one of this director's earlier movies, Versus, I remember renting there. And so this kind of fell in line. And so when he got this in at the video store, I remember being super pumped about it because I've been, you know, hearing about it, and it was the last Godzilla movie, and it was a big monster mash, and they were going to have all the Godzilla characters and monsters from previous movies show up. And I remember when I watched it in 2005, I liked it but didn't love it. I was like, what the fuck? Sum 41, get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. And like, you know, I don't know. I wasn't over the moon for it. But watching it for the show this time, I really liked it. And I think it's one of these movies that you have to kind of take at face value, like, for what it is. Like, it is just a Godzilla greatest hits. It's like, this is the last one. We're going to throw everything in. We're going to make it fucking nuts. There's not going to be really any downtime. When monsters aren't fighting, we're going to have mutants fighting. We're going to have this ragtag team of humanoids and mutants together fighting against this whole various crew. All the monsters you like are going to be back, and some of them are going to be improved, like Gigan. You love Gigan, right? Well, what if he had fucking chainsaw claws this time? Like, I mean, it's pretty great. Like the way that they bring all the monsters into it and stuff, and like Parker mentioned, as they show up, you are kind of like, fuck yeah, oh yeah, they're bringing in King Caesar, they're bringing in Rodan, oh Rodan's in this thing, and like they just, all of them just come. They even have Hidora, or the smog monster, makes a brief appearance as well, which is fun to see. So all the most of the classic Godzilla monsters show up for this one, which is great, and I think it's a lot of fun. I agree, it might be a little overlong, but I think to cram in all the stuff that they wanted to do and to make it a big, long, final epic movie, it makes sense for it to be a little bit longer than the average Godzilla movie, but it does slow down things a little bit. But for the most part, I think it's pretty well paced, especially for the throw everything against the wall, see what sticks kind of approach, because it just cuts like so rapidly between these like various scenes where they don't really give any of the kind of individual stories much room to breathe. It's just kind of like, as soon as one thing's happening, it goes to the next thing, and then this thing's happening, it's going to the next thing. And there's a bunch of characters established and a bunch of different locations, especially in the first like kind of half hour. It just goes from like one fucking crazy scene to the next. And I think it's cool. I definitely enjoyed this more my second time or third time watching it than I did, when I first saw it in 2005. So I think it's fun. And, I really liked, like you guys mentioned, the Don Frye as Douglas Gordon character. I did not know him prior to this as like an MMA guy. I only knew him as this character, and he kind of plays like there's an approximation of this character I've seen in like some anime movies where he's just like the most square jawed, bushy mustached, barrel chested American dude you can think of. Mm-hmm. And he fits that role pretty perfectly. And like when they team up at the end of the movie, when he teams up with all these the mutants and some of these other humans, I don't know, it kind of almost had like a Guardians of the Galaxy feel to it with their team. And I don't know, I thought it worked really well, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think the director achieved his goal of making this a serious, steeped in serious message Godzilla. If that was his intention, I think he failed. But what he succeeded at was making a super fun, all ingredients into the blender kind of monster movie, and I think for that it works really well. So but yeah, probably not like the best one to see if you've never seen any Godzilla before, but if you're more into like modern movies and stuff, I think it has a more modern pacing and special effects, which again, it's 2004, they still use quite a bit of CGI, but most of it's all grounded, especially the monster stuff, in the classic rubber suit technology that we love. So I think they did a really good job of blending the CG with the practical stuff, and most of it's practical. And I think for that, I think it works. So yeah, I like this.
Nice. And you mentioned, I think earlier in the show, that this was supposed to be, to some extent, the final Godzilla movie. Yeah. And obviously it wasn't. We're talking about Godzilla movies that haven't even come out yet. But do you consider this to be kind of the end of an era for you? Like, do you feel like Godzilla changed substantially after this movie?
Well, there's only been two movies after this, the American one from 2014 and Shin Godzilla. And so, yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the Japanese one, the Shin Godzilla, it was a huge departure from this, because with Shin Godzilla, I feel like they're trying to reboot it again, as they do with a lot of things, try to make it grittier and more based in reality. And it definitely, Shin Godzilla does not have the fun aspects of these early 2000s, late 90s Godzilla movies because, and unfortunately, I think, yeah, that's something that I hope they go back to because I love the fun element of it, where I hope if they continue to do Japanese Godzilla movies, that they don't try to make them too serious. Like, I like Shin Godzilla quite a bit as like kind of a one-off thing, but I also really enjoy these like over-the-top monster brawls, and I hope we get to see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And even as somebody who is not the biggest fan of Dorats, I mean, I would be lying if I said that I'm comfortable in a world where I feel like Dorats could never exist. Like, I do want these silly, ridiculous Godzilla movies to be around because, like, what other movies channel this kind of, like, balls-out fun? Like, I can't think of any other genre of movie that feels like, you know, like a pro wrestling type of vibe or like a Saturday morning cartoon type of vibe. And especially one that has lasted this long. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Shin Godzilla was interesting, and I liked a lot of the kind of political fear-mongering and kind of societal commentary that was in that one. But, yeah, it didn't have this silliness that I think we come to expect from Godzilla.
And I mean,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I think I might blow your mind here, Sean Byron, but if you want a series that has like all kinds of weird elements like mutants and aliens and
no, I don't like Marvel movies
and robots that has a long history going back to the 60s, then you might want to watch Avengers movies. Yeah.
On that note, I think we're about done with the Godzilla movies. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to mutate a theropod dinosaur with the aid of nuclear weapons and send it stomping towards your town. So stick around.
Thanks for visiting the JFD video store. We hope you enjoyed our burning hot takes on this week's selected movie. Check us out on iTunes or junkfooddinner.com for full episodes. The audio version contains 3 full-length reviews per week, topical news segments, and listener feedback. Great for long commutes, exercise, or surviving the impending apocalypse. Thanks to Chuck Linnington for the on-screen artwork. Email jfdpodcast@gmail.com or check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, or whatever else is going on. We're probably there and wanna hear from you. Until next time, keep washing them dishes.
Oh, that's great.